The biggest problem for the 2022 Los Angeles Rams is actually getting worse. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Rams your first listen every day, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. My name is Travis Rogers. Not only do I host the Locked On Rams pod, but I also host the Rams pregame show, their halftime show, and their postgame show on their flagship station, ESPN 710. Been doing that since the Rams came back in 2016, and this season feels a lot like 2016, if I'm being honest. We'll get to some of that coming up in just a little bit. But first, let me kindly ask you to go click that subscribe feed in your podcast. It could be a bookmark, a little check mark, a little plus, whatever it is. Make sure that you click that. You get Locked On Rams every single day. And while you're doing things, why not check out Locked On Rams on YouTube as well? We have a Locked On Rams YouTube page that I think that you will enjoy as well. It's also a great way to take in the podcast, maybe if you're not in the car or maybe not just kind of, on a walk or something like that. So you can check out the podcast whenever you are home. We got a good one for you today. I want to talk about there may be some help on the way. There may be some positive injury news on the horizon. And boy, oh boy, could the Rams use it. That's coming up in just a little bit. Plus, I want to talk about the end of the Cam Akers era. Probably. We say it feels like it's about a 98% chance that he's done as a Ram. We'll talk about what they got, what they were hoping to get, and what they hope to do moving forward. But let's start with some more bad injury news, but not before I remind you that today's episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by Bird Dogs, the most comfortable shorts, pants, and sweatpants with built-in liners. Go to birddogs.com, use the promo code Locked On, and boom, free Bird Dogs rope hat with your pair of Bird Dogs. All right, so on Sunday against the Carolina Panthers, even more bad injury news for the Rams. You would think at some point that, the tide would start to turn. And maybe this is just the football gods over the last 3 or 4 years saying, look, you're going to get as many as you give, and it's fine. It's time for you guys to get some bad luck along the way. Maybe. Or maybe it's just, one of those things that happens along the way. What is the one position that the Rams could least afford to get even thinner at? Offensive line. Where did the Rams suffer another season-ending injury? The offensive line. Joe Noteboom, who has been somewhere between meh to less than that for this season, is down for the year with an Achilles injury. He will not return until the 2023 season. That is yet another player that is done for the year along the offensive line. Here's what has happened to them so far this season. When they came into camp, their starting line, going from left to right, starting with Joe Noteboom, since he's the guy that got hurt most recently. Noteboom at left tackle, David Edwards at left guard, Brian Allen at center, Coleman Shelton at right guard, and Rob Havenstein at right tackle. Okay. Here is what has happened since then. And let's just kind of start and go left to right again. Now your starting left tackle, arguably the most important position on your offensive line, is now A.J. Jackson. Lark Jackson is going to be your left tackle, at least moving forward for the time being. This is after he had spent the several weeks prior to that being your third-string right guard, okay? He is a tackle by trade. He had to play guard out of necessity, so we're going to move him from third-string right guard over to second-string left tackle. Quite frankly, the fact that you have a second stringer in there may actually, in an odd way, be an upgrade over the third-string guys that we've had all over the place, but that's what's going on at left tackle. Let's go to left guard. David Edwards was supposed to be your starting left guard, and he was for a while, and now he's on injured reserve, which means he's going to miss at least the next 3 or 4 weeks. He is down, and now you have a backup there in Bobby Evans. So he is your second string left guard. So again, your starter is down for the foreseeable future, and Bobby Evans made the team by about this much, right? Just by about a half an inch. He was a guy that made this team as opposed to being cut in training camp. So not somebody that you had really high hopes for, and certainly not somebody that you were hoping to have to play a bunch of snaps. He's going to be in there for a while. Perhaps the position that has been most decimated by what we're dealing with is the center position. Brian Allen was your starting center. Brian Allen got a new contract during the offseason. Brian Allen played very well for your team last year. Brian Allen basically got hurt in the opener, hasn't played since. And now we'll talk about this later on in the pod. He may be close to coming back, which is good news, but you've played the first 6 weeks of the season. You've had your starting center once. Coleman Shelton, who is your starting right guard, is your backup center. He slides over to center. He gets hurt and is out for an indefinite period of time. Not quite sure when Coleman Shelton is going to come back, which means now you are down to backups at right guard, which we'll get to in just a second. Jeremiah Coloni is now your starting center. He's your third center. He was in the police academy not that long ago. He decided, you know what, this football thing's not going to happen. I'm going to go be a police officer. And the Rams said, you know, why don't you get football one more? And now he's your starting center. Okay, not because this is an incredibly feel-good story about a guy that gave it one more shot and it happened. And now he's, I mean, it is that, but it's also he's starting because you have no better options right there. Jeremiah Coloni, your starting center, and not playing all that great. That's not good. Let's go to right guard. Logan Bruss was the Rams' top draft pick in the 2022 draft. Gets hurt in the preseason, done for the year. So he doesn't even have a chance to start. He doesn't even have a chance to work his way in a backup role because he would have gotten a ton of time had he been available. But before you even got to a meaningful game, he's down for the season. Tremaine Ankrum comes in to back up Coleman Shelton, who's now down as your backup center. He breaks his leg in his second snap as a starting player. He's down for the season, which brought us back to Alaric Jackson, who's now your second string left tackle. So he's gone. So now you are down to your fourth string right guard, a young man by the name of Ode Obushi. I had to ask Artis Twyman, the Rams PR director, how to say his name because it wasn't even on the roster sheet. That's how deep they've gone. Ode Obushi. Matt Skura is on this roster, a guy that they picked up earlier this season because the Ravens decided they didn't want him anymore. Chandler Brewer is somebody that may get some time along the way. This is the state of the Rams offensive line. Now, they did a better job against Carolina. Only one sack for Matt Stafford in that game. But this was more by design, a rollout and scheme than anything else. The O-line was not very good. Pro Football grades, Pro Football Focus put out some grades, and a lot of those guys were incredibly lowly rated. This is not going to change. This is not going to get a lot better in the short term. Like I mentioned, there is a hope that Brian Allen will come back by the time they play San Francisco in a couple of weeks. We'll talk about that coming up in just a little bit. But the one position where the Rams could afford it the least to get even thinner happened again with the loss of Joe Noteboom, who's gone for the year. So maybe there's a trade. Maybe there's some sort of something coming along the way. But a position of coming into the season, big question mark, got worse and worse and worse and even worse than that with the loss of Joe Noteboom. Just a brutal, brutal break for the Rams. All right, coming up next, I want to talk about the Cam Akers situation. What in the world happened there? What did they get? What might they get? And where do you go from here? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams. So, you know, when you get that pair of pants or shorts or just whatever piece of clothing it might be, that's just perfect, that just fits so perfectly well, it's so incredibly comfortable, you can't wait to put it on every single day. Guys, that's Bird Dogs, okay? I'm telling you, every day I get to wear the Bird Dog sweats. Where are my Bird Dog shorts? I live in Southern California, so you can kind of go either way. You get to wear the shorts all season long. You can wear them to play golf. You can lounge around the house in the sweatpants. They are so incredibly comfortable. I can't tell you. Look, I'm a bigger guy, right? I'm somebody that if stuff is a little too snug, if it doesn't stretch, all this stuff, it's just that finding things that fit right and are incredibly comfortable and actually look really nice, very, very difficult to do. And Bird Dogs has nailed it. They're higher quality than Lululemon. They're $20 cheaper. So go get some Bird Dogs, right? And yeah, I'm the guy that wears shorts in the winter. So yeah, it's California. Why not? Why not do it? I'm going to go home today after work. And I'm going to put on my Bird Dog sweats. And then tomorrow, I'm going to go home after work and I'm going to put on my Bird Dog sweats. That's how comfortable they are. Here's how you got to do it. And I promise you, you'll go, Trav, where have these been all my life? Go to birddogs.com, enter the promo code Locked On, and they'll throw in a free Bird Dogs rope hat. That's birddogs.com. Your promo code is Locked On, and boom, free Bird Dogs rope hat with your pair of Bird Dogs. The most comfortable shorts, pants, sweatpants. They got the built-in liner, and it's not too snug. It's just perfect along the way. You will not take these things off. I promise you. I wear them literally every single day. Hiring people is a big deal, right? It is a high-stakes wager for your small business, and you want to be 100% certain that you have the access to the best quality candidates available so you can make that right hire. This is why you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. You know how important this is if you got a small business. Really, if you're hiring anybody for whatever it is you're doing, you got to make sure that that's the right person. You got to make sure that they fit in really well. You got to find the right candidates to find the right person. So this is how you do it. You add your job and the purple hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you are hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. You want to finish out this year strong. You're going to need the right people to do it, that right person that just kind of takes you to that whole next level. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thanks again for making Locked On Rams your first listen every day. Make sure you check out NFL Key Predictions every Friday on Locked On NFL. Locked On's local experts give you the inside scoop on the 5 biggest games of the NFL weekend, including Sunday and Monday Night Football, plus betting advice from the field's leading experts, BetOnline. Follow key NFL predictions every Friday on Locked On NFL, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks again for listening to Locked On Rams. My name is Travis Rogers. You can follow me on Twitter at that handle as well, at Travis Rogers. All right, let's talk a little bit about Cam Akers. It kind of happened towards the end of last week, and it feels like we're in the final stages of the Cam Akers era here in Los Angeles. He and Sean McVay are having what are described philosophical and football differences. Let me take out what that means in football speak and put it in regular person, human being, regular workplace speak. The boss and the employee hate each other. They don't get along. They're not seeing eye to eye, and it's not working out. It's in everybody's best interest if we just move on. It's in the best interest of the employee. It's in the best interest of the boss. It's in the best interest of the organization. Let's just put an end to this and move on. And that's what Sean McVay was saying when they sent him home last week. They told him to stay away from the team, that he wasn't in uniform on Sunday. He hasn't been with the team this week. And now we're finding out that the Rams are, in fact, trying to accommodate him with a trade to another team. They're saying it's a fresh start. They're trying to help him maximize and all of this stuff. And, maybe they can get some sort of late round draft pick for him. I don't know how much equity Cam Akers would have because he's been mediocre at best. A couple of years ago, he was pretty good and seemed like he was on the right path, but it's been a minute and he has not looked like the same player since he had that Achilles injury a little bit more than a year ago. So it's unfortunate that it didn't work out. But let's talk a little bit about the Cam Akers era here in Los Angeles. He was their second-round draft pick out of Florida State in the 2020 draft and looked really good. Right? Looked really good. He was the guy that was the offense for this team, basically for the 2020 season in the second half. Sean McVay had kind of had it up to here with Jared Goff, and we're not going to keep doing the same thing over and over again. We're going to become a team that runs the football. And Cam Akers was the guy that was asked to be the guy to do that. And he did. And he was really good. He was a difference-making player. He was, when we found out that he got hurt the following year, I was like, oh, man, he was going to be a big part of this. Put him together with Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, and obviously Matthew Stafford comes in at that point, and, hey, let's go. We got some offensive weapons. Not so much. He got hurt, and it really never came back. They brought him back towards the end of the last year, and he was not good. They played him in the playoffs a decent amount, and he was whatever's less than not good. He had a fumble problem in the playoffs, nearly cost the Rams the game, quite frankly, in the divisional round against Tampa before they finally got it squared away at the end. And then coming into this season, it got really weird, really weird. He was supposed to be the guy that was going to carry the load. He was supposed to be the guy that was the number one back. He was supposed to be the guy that would get the bulk of the carries and, you know, was pretty good in pass protection, was an athlete, was pretty good catching the ball out of the backfield. He did the things that you thought the Rams would need as a starting back. And there was no, you know, rumblings that, hey, you know, they're not really feeling this guy. And then opening night comes around with the Buffalo Bills, and he doesn't play. Not only does he not start, he barely gets on the field. I think he had 3 touches, maybe less. It was bizarre. And shortly after that, you know, you go through that first week of media and everything else, and Sean McVay's message to him through the media was he needs to take advantage of the opportunities that he's been given. In other words, dude ain't doing what I'm asking him to do. Dude is not doing what we need him to do or what I expect him to do. Fast forward to week 2 against Atlanta. He's in the lineup. He's better, but it's not great. Go to the next week against Atlanta, kind of more of the same. And then after that, he gets used less and less and less. And here we are. And the Rams are deciding to move on to go in a different direction with Cam Akers. I get it. It happens. It's a bad fit. He wants the ball. The Rams are saying you haven't earned the ball. I don't want to be here. Fine. We don't want you here anymore. Let's get you down the road. The question is, are they going to miss him? No. I mean, Darrell Henderson isn't the second coming of Barry Sanders or anything, but they have a guy that's oddly similar to him that does kind of the same things. Maybe not quite as explosive, but seems to run a little harder, seems to compete a little bit more. The Rams need some help at running back. There's a reason Malcolm Brown is here. There's a reason Ronnie Rivers got some touches against the Carolina Panthers. There's a reason that Kyron Williams is optimistically, or I should say the Rams are optimistically looking to him moving forward into the second part of the season. He's played 0 NFL snaps, and they're like, hey, get him in here. Let's see what he can do. The running back position has been incredibly disappointing for them so far to this point in the season. But Cam Akers, it's not like Cam, like we know the best version of him and he can't live without it. They can't. They can, they have, they will. It's too bad it didn't work out. It's another example of the Rams draft. When it doesn't work, it leaves a big hole potentially. And that's what they've been doing with him. It's what they did with Tutu Atwell. It's what they've done this season with Logan Bruss. We'll talk about that on tomorrow's Locked On Rams. I think it's an interesting topic, but they're going to play without him. Maybe he lands somewhere else. Maybe they get a 5th, 6th round draft pick. Who knows what it might fetch. I can't imagine it's much more than that, even if that at all. But he's gone. Cam Akers will be gone sooner than later. Oddly, though, one last thing. Sean McVay did say if they can't find a deal that they like, that they'll find out how to move forward with him. I'd be really surprised if that happens, but the fact that they put it out there at all means that it's not a non-zero chance. All right, coming up next, we'll talk about, is there help on the way? Are the Rams finally getting back some of their guys? Can they get a little healthier, and can that launch them in to the second part of their season? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams. Do you like to have fun? Do you enjoy football? Do you enjoy having things to root for or maybe even against? I kind of like to root against things. As a football fan, then what are you waiting for with PrizePicks, right? It's daily fantasy at its absolute best. It is easy and fun. This is why I like it so much. You go to PrizePicks.com, you put the PrizePicks app on your phone, however you want to do it, and you make predictions. You look at what they have up there. For instance, let's say it says Patrick Mahomes, 320 yards. You like more or less? Derrick Henry, rush for 85 yards. Do you like more or less? Cooper Kupp, number of receptions. Do you like more or less? All of these things you look at, and you make a pick, up, down, over, under, right? And this is how easy it is. You pick 2 to 5 players, and if you decide they will go over or under their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on every entry, on any entry, I should say. No competing against other people. You don't have to beat 30 other guys. You have to just do better than the projection. Just you versus the projections available. It offers on any sport that you want. NFL, right? Who doesn't love that? NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, golf, college football. If you want to do it, PrizePicks has you covered. It's safe and it's fast to withdraw your money. It's currently operational in over 30 states and Canada. Here's how you do it. Download the PrizePicks app or go to PrizePicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. Don't forget to enter that promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. So 6 weeks into the season, the Rams have been just crushed by injuries. We talked about it at the top of the pod about just on the offensive line. Basically, other than Rob Havenstein, everybody else has gone down. And a lot of those backups to those guys have gone down a lot of way. They've been incredibly unlucky with the injury bug. Look, that's life in the NFL. Nobody cares. Nobody's going to feel sorry for you. They're going to continue to do what they do. They're going to try to exploit the holes that you have on your team. The good news is that the bye is coming this week. The Rams are off. They won't play again until week 8 against the San Francisco 49ers at SoFi Stadium. So that is good news, just time, right? Here's who's on the horizon. Hopefully we'll be back by then. Perhaps most importantly of all these guys is their center, Brian Allen. Brian Allen was the center on a Super Bowl team. Brian Allen is a good football player. Brian Allen will allow everybody else to kind of slide back into some positions that maybe are a little bit more normal. That when Coleman Shelton comes back, he can go back to right guard. This is kind of the anchor to your offensive line right now with Noteboom down and Rob Havenstein out to the right side. In the middle of that line, having your center back with Brian Allen, hopefully he's ready to go against the Niners. And then a very close second as far as guys that are important coming back to this team is Van Jefferson. Van Jefferson, I think, is probably more important than we might have imagined. That the offense has been less than great. Now, the offensive line is a big part of that. The running game is a part of that. Matthew Stafford has played poorly. That's a part of that. Allen Robinson, until this last game's inability to get engaged in the offense, is a part of that. But Van Jefferson's a good football player. He's gotten better every year he's been here. Maybe it'll take him a minute to kind of acclimate back to NFL speed. We haven't seen him all season long, but he's going to be a big deal if and when he comes back. So now all of a sudden it's Kupp, it's Jefferson, it's Allen Robinson. That's pretty nice. Now you can spell Skoranek. Now you don't have to have Brandon Powell carrying as much of the workload as maybe he's had to do so far. This may not be great news for Tutu Atwell. Maybe he slides even further down the depth chart at that point, but this is good news for the Rams. Also, Troy Hill expected back. Your secondary gets a little better. Jacoby Durant comes back. Your secondary gets a little better. Now, it's been pretty good. I know, quite frankly, that has stood up about as well as you could have hoped under the circumstances, but it's another place to get back as well. And then defensive line, they've gotten very, very little good push up front outside of Aaron Donald. Floyd hasn't done much. Greg Gaines hasn't done much. Bobby Brown is expected back after his suspension for violating the league's performance-enhancing drug policy. He's coming back as well. So it's another healthy body and another option to try and see if you can find that combination to get everything going the way that it is. So what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different players could be back as soon as that Niner game in week 8 at SoFi Stadium. So that is some much-needed good news, and it can't get here soon enough. All right, thanks again for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single day. Now make your second listen, the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson giving you the expert NFL analysis in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.